Okay, so this video gonna be a comparison video with Paladin and Overwatch. What is similar and what is different, and so on. Let's start. Okay, the first big things with Paladins that makes it different from Overwatch is the loadout system, the card system, and the mounts that make it come quicker to the battlefield. And obviously, when you play a game, you always start in a waiting room with your team before the match starts. So it's much easier to know who is on your team and so on than comparable to some of the game modes in Overwatch. It's like some of the game modes in Overwatch, you almost start right on the way when you play. And obviously, each match. For example, each match you can play a champion different if you use different loadout and different cards. Will make the champion a bit different from each other when you play them. When you play the same one, you can make so that is a huge difference because you change the hero in some sense in the game mode. Some heroes like Pip are healers, but if you change his card and make all of his cards like a damage cards, he will be more like a damage champion than he's originally meant to be a healer. But if you play a healer in Overwatch, they are healers. They are not going to change. You cannot change a healer to be more like a damage character, or than you can do in Paladin. You can change a healer to be a different kind of a champion because the card and loadout and so on. So that is the biggest differences here with Paladin characters and Overwatch characters, and the other one that is not do not infect in some sense gameplay is just the fun things. Is that if you have, for example, want like you have like a Makoa's Christmas. Sorry, you have his Halloween Christmas snowball suit, but you don't like his Christmas suit, but you like his Christmas bomb. You can have that weapon like the bomb, but you can have his Honey King costume at the same time. You have a different skin for the bombs as the weapons, and that is also special. If you compare Overwatch Paladin, you cannot change the skin from the weapon to the skin of you have to have the same skin and the same weapon. In Overwatch you cannot make them different. So for example, if you play the ninja guy in Overwatch, obviously I don't remember his name, but for example you have his like shiny armor suit he have, like the Ming Dynasty armor suit, but at the same time you want to have cool looking. If you can change that weapon, like for example instead of his Dao, his katana, you can use his like a shamshir, but you have to have the same mummy skin to have the shamshir. It's like the sword. uh, so obviously we know that in Middle East and Persia they call the shamshir is just the name for their sword. It's not different if they're curved, forward curved, straight, and so on. But in the game here to make it more easier. But if you want the curved sword, you just the only way you can have it if you have that skin that is the sword is meant for. So you cannot mix and match, and that thing is a bit sad. You cannot. I think you don't have that freedom in that sense in the game. And I think it's a bit strange. A game you spend money on, you cannot change. You cannot be more free in that sense. Obviously, these things do not affect the gameplay in any ways. It's not just make you make more fun time when you play. So you have more possibility to make the character different in Paladin than you have in Overwatch in the way how they look and the way how they play, because the card and loadout system. Uh, and the other thing is a bit different is obviously is the mounts, because Paladin maps are very big, and to save lots of time they use mounts to ride to the location. Um, in Overwatch we don't have that, because in Overwatch you just have to go to a place. You cannot use any fast traveling system that you have in Paladin. One thing I'm not 100% certain about yet, so I don't gonna say that it is the case or not, is like in Paladin, I know, because I play Paladin much more than Overwatch. I know in Paladin we have teleports in some maps that will come. I don't know. I don't have played every map I think in Overwatch yet, so I don't gonna say they don't have teleports. Uh, so I just wait for that. So that is not gonna be in the like so on. Okay. Okay. But obviously the things that makes Overwatch better than Paladin is that, for example, if you are not good with a character and you die with that character, you can just change that character and in the same game mode, the same play. So that makes it a bit different, make it more, you have more ways, more ways to play a characters in Overwatch than you have in Paladin. In Paladin, you have to, every character you play, you have to play them all the way to the end. In Overwatch, you just can, if they are not, you do not like that, you, and you die, you change the character, and you can maybe around one match, you can maybe change to 10 different characters and try them out. So that makes it more easier for you to probably learn more of the character. You have more time for each character in Overwatch because you can change them in the under one match. But in the same time, is because Overwatch is much more like a hardcore game. For much more, it's much more people that play Overwatch as a real tournament around the world. It's much more compatible game than you have in Paladin and so on. This is much more compatible. So in that sense, you don't have as much luxury in that sense. You just have to be really good with one character to have a chance. If you play all the time different character, you're not gonna focus as much on just one character and make that good, and so on. So in that sense, I think Paladin are much more forgivers than Overwatch because you can be a beginner and still have a chance against character players that is much better because you have the more you can more way. For example, you are forced in that way to play one champion. If you choose, for example, a damage champion, you're forced to play that character all the way to the end of that match. That makes it so you're much more conscious what champion you choose before the game, because you have to understand if you choose that character, you're gonna make maybe your whole team lose. So you have to, then you mean that every time you choose a character, you have to be really good with that character in Paladin, because you have to help your team in some different ways and so on. In Overwatch, you don't really have to think so much about that point specific as much, because you can change the character if you are bad with it and take one that you're good with, and so on. So for some people that is good, for some people that is bad, because that makes it so that you can just choose every time you can just change a character. I think personally, I think in some sense it's good and some sense it's not so good, because I think it's better to learn a character. For example, for example you should play as Khan, but you're much better as like character like Tiberius or Amani, that is different play styles than Khan. It's sometimes good to play other character to learn more about them and so on, than just play the same character all the time. And you always say, as I said before in the beginning of the video, you can always change Khan to be more like a different kind of a play style and so on. So you have this huge differences here, is that you cannot change a hero if you choose that hero in Paladin, obviously, and if you choose a hero in Overwatch, you can change them if you don't like them, and so on in the game mode. And obviously, you have more different game modes in Overwatch than you have in Paladin. So you have more in that sense. More you can, for example, if you want to play that game mode, you can change it to other game mode. But because of this much more competitive with Overwatch than Paladin is that so if you do something that not is good, you will very quickly be punished, and sometimes you can be like a banned and sometimes from the game in Overwatch. But in Paladin, that makes it different. So that, for example, if you play rank, you can ban champions like in the game that is too overpowered. That champion you cannot choose if some people ban them in the game mode. So you can you cannot choose them in the game. And so on. Instead for just ban you, but then you can ban the character you're good with. So that is also a good thing. That is also the system why in Paladin they have so you have forced, if you choose a character, you're forced to play that all the way. In that sense it's very good because then you will learn that character, to play with that character. For example, if you will be banned, for example, with Tiberius, then you have learned to play, for example, Amani or Jin as good as you was with as good as you was with Tiberius, for example. In that sense, it's very good to learn your characters, your different characters with different systems and so on. So you know every time you are some character you like and is banned in the rank, you can still be good with the character that is not banned in the rank and so on. And that is a very good. That's in this. If you compare this thing together, then the system is very good in Paladin because you are forced to learn, and that will save you later on when you play Paladin. Will be save you later on because you know every time you choose a new character and you play them all the way to the end, and a match maybe is like if it is maybe 10 or 12 minutes. Some matches much longer than others. Then you have more time with that character you're not good with to play them from the start to the end of the match, and so on. But in Overwatch you can just change them how you want. If right from the start you can change different character. So I think in some sense you have more time for one character in Paladin than you have in you have more time in some character in Paladin than you have in Overwatch because you are forced to have that time. You're not free. You are forced to play. Even maybe that sounds very bad when I say forced, but in some sense it's good to be forced. In some sense, if you talk about the game, sometimes it's good to learn a character and have your time with the character and just not just okay. I don't like the character. I'm gonna change it. Okay, I'm gonna take Genji. I'm gonna take Roadhog, for example. But you're never gonna really then if you just change character and you change back and you always play back and forth instead of just force. Now we're gonna play Genji all the match. Maybe Genji is a very bad example because Genji is a very popular character in Overwatch and very overpowered. For example, similar to the Ice Lady in Overwatch and so on. So that is one thing I think is good with Paladin, that you are forced to learn a character and you have to be good with that character. But the thing you can do is every time you choose that character, you choose different character, you can just change the load and the card to make them more different from each other, and so on. And then you have the system that can upgrade how much damage you do and so on. And that is also a thing that is different from Overwatch. Is that when you start the game, you have the system to make. For example, if you're a healer, you can make you can get more points when you heal. Like you can heal faster your team if you use that system, or if you are a damager, you can use a bullet system to make you do more damage to your opponents, and this kind of thing. So you have the loadouts that is different for each champion, different loadouts that is personal. Personal, they give you champion different. So as I said before, it's like you are much more like in Overwatch. Yes, your character is much more sculpted, than they are in Paladin. In Paladin, it's more like you are the character that sculpt your character. In Overwatch, it's more like the creators that sculpt that character. So you play how the creator wants you to play that character in Overwatch, then it's different from Paladin. You are the sculptor, then you can play them more like how you want them to be played. So in that sense, I like more Paladin, because you are more free to choose how you want to play them than you are in Overwatch, and this kind of thing. So yeah, you are much more you are much more free in that sense of your characters, how they play for each match in Paladin than you are in Overwatch. But you are in other sense you are more free than in Overwatch, is that you can change the character how you can change them every match. Like you change character, you cannot change how they play. You can, if you change a trickster tricks, you cannot change her what she are for kind of champion. You have to play her like a healer or a damage champion and so on. You cannot make her different. That, for example, if you play Atlas, that have a bit similar abilities that Tracer, but still both of them control time and so on. But you can make Atlas uh, like Atlas is more like a protecting champion, because he can use a different wall for each loadouts. So in that sense, Atlas will be different from Tracer, because he have more ways to play him than you have ways to play Tracer, and so on. Yeah, and I think that is probably everything, since it makes it different and similar with Paladin Overwatch. Obviously, as I said before, you have much more ways. You have much more way to choose a game mode for Overwatch than you have in Paladin. But because Overwatch is a game you buy with real money, Paladin is a free game. Uh, you can get everything for free, almost everything for free in Paladin. You have to buy the game, but in that sense, you buy the game, you get it's more easier to get chest in Overwatch than it's Paladin. So because of this game you buy, so you get more things for free in the game. But if you buy the whole game in Paladin, you have to buy things in the game. It's free. The game is free, so they have to get money to get to. Obviously, every game creators need money, because to make the game better for each update and so on, and for bugs and new character, new skin, all these kind of things. So obviously, a game cannot be 100% free, because if then nothing will be upgraded, because people need money for living and so on. So in that sense, I think it's totally okay if they, but because it's not really. Some people maybe will say that Paladin is a game pay to win, but it's not really the case, because if you, for example, are a damage character and you make your damage character very very powerful because of the thing you can play in the game modes and the loadouts, you can just counter that with a good defense character and so on. So it's just always to be up and down to really balance the characters. So if each loadout and each team different loadouts and card system will make it so that, for example, if they both team have a Tiberius, you can make your Tiberius different from their Tiberius because of the card and the loadout, so they don't want to play exactly the same way. And obviously, because you change the card system, your card will make maybe your Tiberius have more ammunition with his chakram than the other Tiberius, and so on. And this kind of thing. So that is everything I really want to say in this video. I hope you like it, and yeah.